In 1963, Jeep introduced us to the original Jeep Wagoneer. It was a big, full-sized, heavy-duty, ultra-capable V8 SUV, which of course now is an icon, and really nice ones are extremely collectible. Most car guys, and especially enthusiasts of off-road vehicles, definitely love these things and would love to at least get their hands on one, if not own one. Fast forward 60 years, right now at the time of this video is 2023, and this is where we are with the Wagoneer. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to that car vlog channel. If you don't already know, my name is Andy, and today we're taking a look at this Jeep Wagoneer. But before we begin, I'd like to give a huge shout out, special thanks to Twin Cities Certified of Maryville, Tennessee for providing the vehicle for today's review. When you get done watching this video, please make sure to check the description below for a link to their website where you check out their awesome inventory. These guys are great people, amazing to deal with, and they've lent me so many cars I've lost count. So make sure to check them out when you get done here. All right, let's get back to the Wagoneer. So in 2021, for the 22 model year, Jeep reintroduced us to the Jeep Wagoneer, as well as its way more luxurious sibling, the Grand Wagoneer. Now, full disclosure, this is a 2022 model being shot in 23, so we will take a tour around this 22, but we're gonna talk in 2023 prices and figures. So let's go ahead and take a tour around this thing, see what it's all about. So we are gonna start here at the front of the Wagoneer and try to excuse the fact there's gonna be some fan noise because I'm trying to get the interior of this thing cool. It's really hot today. Starting right up here on the hood, the first thing you see above the traditional 7-slot grille design that Jeep has maintained even on the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is the letters that spell out Wagoneer right on the hood, not Jeep. And just as a heads up, you're not gonna see Jeep printed anywhere on this vehicle. Almost. Right here, either side of the grille, you got Jeep Performance LED headlights. You can see here's your low beam projectors. There's your high beams inside of that. And you get your daytime running light right above those. And as we can see on the driver's side, that running lamp also doubles as your turn signal. It just simply turns the orange on instead of turning the white off. Coming down here in the bumper, you do have your LED fog lights. Stepping back, looking at the front end as a whole, this is a really nice looking, classy vehicle. I do really enjoy the way this thing looks. I think they did a pretty good job with this vehicle. As we make our way down the driver's side here, you can see this thing is sitting on 20-inch wheels, and in the center, instead of Jeep, it also says Wagoneer. Once again, they put Jeep pretty much nowhere on the vehicle. On the door, it says Wagoneer again. You can see behind that you have the American flag badge. And as you can see here on the passenger side, it says the same thing, but if you look at the American flag badge, it's backwards. This is really cool and really important because part of the rules regarding the American flag is that the stars must always be facing forward on the flag. So as you can see, here's the front of the vehicle. The stars need to be facing forward. So if this were not a badge but an actual flag, it would be flying in this direction. Jeep very well could have cheaped out if they wanted to and put the exact same badge on each side, but they chose to obey the rules, follow tradition, and make 2 badges for this vehicle. Down here below the doors, you can see you got some nice running step boards, makes it really nice for climbing into the vehicle. And up here, you got a couple of bicolored roof rails, black and chrome, looks really nice. Stepping back and looking at the side profile of the vehicle overall, I kind of like the way this looks. It's a good looking vehicle, but it's not too curvy or too flowy like SUVs tend to be nowadays. It's very boxy, it's very full-size SUV-ish. It's rugged yet luxurious. Looking at the rear, you can see it pretty much has that same boxy profile. You got the big square glass. Unfortunately, this glass does not open separate from the gate. I wish that it did. Down below the window, once again, you get Wagoneer spelled out all the way across, not Jeep. Coming down here, looking at your taillights, this top strip here out here is your taillight. This part out here is your brake and turn. And your reverse lights are all the way down here in the bumper next to your reflectors. And right here above the license plate, you do have your rear view camera, which isn't really worth mentioning ever since 2018, but what is worth mentioning is the fact you do have a camera washer right above that. Here on the bottom right of your lift gate, it says Series 2 on this badge. I'll explain to you in a minute what that means. Now at this point, I've taken you around the entire perimeter of the vehicle, and I've mentioned a few times that Jeep chose not to put the word Jeep pretty much anywhere on this vehicle. Sort of, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Come right over here to the mirrors, right here at the base of the mirror where it attaches to the door, and you get Jeep, passenger and driver side. So yes, they did still want to put their name on the vehicle, but they wanted even more so to stress that this is not just a Jeep, this is the Wagoneer. And you actually have Jeep in one more place on each side of the car, which is right here, stamped into the rear taillight. And while we're over here looking at the mirrors, we'll step back and look at them overall. You can see they are body color. They're black with a black car. Got that nice chrome strip running through them, as well as the integrated turn signal above that. Coming around behind them, you have the standard mirror as well as the integrated blind spot mirror. Very nice to see there. And of course, you do have your blind spot monitoring system right there. Now, before we get into the Wagoneer, I want you to take a look at the key here. And this key, as you can see, is just as square and classy as the vehicle itself. Once again, on the back, you don't get Jeep, you get Wagoneer on the key. And your buttons here are very simple: lock, unlock, remote start, remote liftgate, and your panic button. Otherwise, it's just a typical key, but it's really good looking, just like the vehicle that it goes with. Climbing into our Wagoneer, we'll start with, of course, the front door card. And you can immediately tell just by looking at the door card alone that Jeep was definitely going for luxury, even in the Wagoneer, not just the Grand Wagoneer. You got some nice black soft touch material here on the armrest with some contrasted white stitching. All of your power options, your locks, windows, auto windows all the way around, except that your rears are only auto down. Here's your mirror controls, 2 seat memory settings, nice silver door release handle there, bit of silver accents running through the door. Right here's what looks like maybe some simulated wood grain or something like that, kind of gray dark wood or something. Looks really nice. And this little striped bit here, which is actually all black but appears striped in the light, looks really classy. Step back from that again, you can see this is really nice. Down here, your door speaker is part of the standard 9-speaker Alpine system with subwoofer in this vehicle. Optional is a 19-speaker system by Macintosh. Looking at our seats right here, you do have 12-way adjustable power front seats. They are perforated leather because you do have heating and ventilation in these seats as well. Some contrasted white stitching there. Here's your power controls for those seats. Next to the seats, you have your door sill, and I'm actually kind of disappointed by this because most luxury vehicles, most vehicles for that matter, have a nice door sill, maybe just something that's brushed stainless, maybe aluminum. Even if it's just plastic that looks like it, they have something here, maybe with Jeep or Wagoneer or whatever. This doesn't have any of that, it's just plain black. It's a little bit of a disappointment. Right here to the left of the steering wheel, you got just a few basic controls. You got your headlight controls here as well as your dimmers. There's the buttons to adjust your power operated foot pedals, and there's your electronic parking brake. Unfortunately, not a mechanical manual brake. Coming up toward the top of the dash, that theme from the door continues. You get that nice faux wood right here. Looks really classy with the chrome strips in between. You get your chrome strips in the air vents as well to make those look not plain at all, but also kind of classy. You can see they start continuing the white contrast stitching into the dash as well. Behind the steering wheel, your 10.2-inch digital gauge cluster screen. We'll touch on that here in a little bit. And looking at the steering wheel itself, once again, they made sure that the steering wheel was also classy. It's black with the white contrast stitching right there on it. Nice to hold in the hands. You got all your controls right here on either side of the airbag, which of course the badge says Wagoneer, not Jeep. Got to keep that theme. On the right, you got all the controls for your cruise control, your adaptive cruise, lane keep, all that good stuff. And to the left, here's the buttons where you're going to control your phone and your gauge cluster screen. Now pulling back from the steering wheel, and you're going to see there's no obvious audio controls anywhere on this wheel. That's because in typical Chrysler style, they're on the back. So on this side, you got your volume controls, and on the other side, you got the buttons to control things like presets and your stations and whatnot. So right here at your fingertips is where you're going to find your audio controls. Continuing to the right of the steering wheel, you can see that design with the faux wood and the chrome trim continues all the way across. Here it is in your air vents again, and even all the way to the other side of your infotainment screen. All the same, it's that nice, classy look all the way across. Here in the center control stack is your 10.1-inch digital infotainment screen, and apparently my camera really hates this unit. Hopefully I can still shoot this. We will get to that screen in just a second. Well, we come over here to the side, you're going to see there's some lights here. These are actually capacitive buttons, and these control your heated and ventilated seats and your heated steering wheel. So of course, here's a button for your heated steering wheel. Here's one for your heated seats. Here's one for your ventilated seats. We'll go ahead and turn that on. And you can see another thing lit up above that. It says zone. I think this is really cool. So you can actually tell it if you want it to cool or heat your butt and your back, or just your back, just your butt, or put it back on both. That's really kind of cool. So you don't have to settle with just one zone or just two. You can choose if you want one or two. On the other side, you get the same seat controls for the passengers. They can choose their zone as well. And this button right here, that will turn your screen completely black, presumably for cleaning, or maybe if you're driving at night and you don't want the light glaring on you. And if you want to bring it back, just tap it. Down here to the left is your volume and power knob. If we hit this, it's the power button, and it also turns the screen completely black. Although with this, you do have to push it again to turn it all right back on. That's also your volume knob. We're going to keep that low because YouTube video. And over here is your tuner knob. Down below that, you do have physical controls for your climate control. Now, what's interesting is this is one of several ways actually to control your climate controls in this vehicle. Of course, it's the preferred way for most people, these series of buttons. And it is dual zone, so you got your temperature settings for your driver. Of course, there's your defrost buttons, your zones, fan speed, auto, AC, recirc, and your temperatures for the passenger. Now, if we come down from the screen a little bit, we'll come to this in a second. Here is your transmission selector. You can see we can turn it, put it in drive, all that good stuff. It is a knob. And ahead of that, you got a series of buttons. Here's one for your auto start stop. Here's a turn off your lane keep, your traction control. Here's your hazards. Here's when to turn on and off your parking sensors, tow haul because this thing can tow, and your mute for your audio. Now what you don't see here on this particular example, because this is the 2-wheel drive model, is the lever that would sit right here. Your 4-wheel drives are gonna have a mode selector right here, kind of a rocker switch of sorts. You're gonna be able to cycle through different 4-wheel drive modes such as snow, sand and mud, rock modes, that kind of thing. This one, however, does not have it. Ahead of that, you have a piano black cover to match the piano black around your shifter. If we just kind of push, and that will kind of move up, and let's move the car fox here. Excuse me, buddy. And that opens up to an absolute plethora of charging. Up above us here, you got a button to open your rear hatch. You got your map reading lights right here, a couple SOS buttons, controls for your interior dome lighting. Here, this cover here is both a sunglass holder and also a convex mirror to see everything behind you. That's another very traditional Chrysler thing that that I've usually seen in minivans, and now it's here in the Wagoneer. Kind of like that though. You can see what the kids are doing in the back seat. Looking over here at your visors, you got this little clip, and it even has a picture of a paper clip on it. So I guess that's something if you need to store a card or a parking pass or something up there, something you need to get to while you're in the car, you can do that. Flip that down. Each side does have a mirror with some vanity lights right there. All right, now let's take a look at our digital gauge cluster screen. So you can see right now it's in this digital mode. You see your tachometers across the bottom right there. If we rev it, you can see that move right there. If I hold OK, it's going to turn it to traditional gauges. You can see now there's just 2 round gauges, and it looks like normal vehicles. I'm going to turn that back to the digital mode because I really like the way that looks. Now, once again, we are controlling this with the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel, and on the left side of the steering wheel, there's a button that looks like panels kind of on it, like pages or panels. If we push that button, this is going to pop up with all these little panels all the way across. If you want to, you can see all kinds of information on your screen at all times, and you can even choose what you see. So on the left, you got your trip information. You can scroll through your trip A, trip B, that kind of thing. Scroll over here, it's going to get you some other vehicle engine information, such as your current MPGs. There's, of course, your coolant temp, your trans temp. There's your oil temp. Of course, there's oil pressure, battery voltage, all that good stuff, oil life, tire pressure monitoring. Right back to MPGs. Go over there. There's what I believe is going to be your navigation. Here's your music. And over here is another screen where you can put different readouts from the screen over there. So you can put 2 different readouts on this screen as far as vehicle information. And of course your trip odometer all right there in front of you. If you don't want that, of course, just push that page button again. It's going to bring you right back here. Now, if I start clicking the down arrow button here, we're going to scroll through some stuff. Here's some vehicle information we saw on one of those panels in the wide panel view. Look over here. Here's, of course, a whole array of gauges right here that you're going to be able to access. Click again, oil life. Again, there's your tire pressure. If we click down, here's your trip monitors. Click that button there, and this is going to allow you a full screen navigation map in your gauge cluster. You don't have to rely on staring at the center screen. It's right here in front of you. This is a wonderful, beautiful thing. I love this. All vehicles with digital gauge screens should offer something like this. If we click down again, here's your music. Go again. Of course, there's any messages the car's trying to give you, whatever. And it says here, press OK to enter screen setup. So this is kind of cool. So you can change some of the stuff you see on the screen. So let's go ahead and go into that. And you see it says upper right, and up here, the upper right of the screen is highlighted. So it's going to tell you, hey, this is where you're working. We're going to be able to cycle through the things we want to display. There's a time, range to empty, that kind of thing. And it can show you all kinds of stuff. Current economy, trip A, trip B, nothing. You can have nothing. You can have the compass, outside temp. Go out of that, select upper left, and then we can do the same thing. We can decide what we want to see right there as well. So interestingly, you can tell that you want the temp on both sides if you really want to emphasize what's the temperature. You can tell it whether you want it to tell you the current gear you're in. We select tachometer. Do you want it to show when you're in digital theme, which of course I do, or do you want it to hide it? No, I totally want to it to show me. Click on odometer, show or hide, favorites menus, all kinds of things you can configure in this gauge screen. It is mildly configurable. It's not as configurable as some vehicles, but it still has a decent amount of configuration. Now we just want to get out of that and go back to our main screen right there. There's our cool looking tachometer with the big digital speed again. All right, and since my GoPro does not like this screen at all and tried to show red scrolling across it, we're going to shoot this on the smartphone instead. So here you're looking at your 10.1 inch digital infotainment screen, and right now we are on the home screen, and you see it's showing 2 different things. It's got your maps on one side, here's your audio on the other side. Maybe you want to pull up full screen, we can click this right up here and it'll pull that up full screen. And you can see it selected that nav button right down here because that's the other way you get to your full screen map. Go back to home so you can throw up your audio in full view right here. And you see it selected the media tab right down here on the bottom, because once again, that's the other way you can get to this screen. Now, while we're in media, let's go over here to sources, and you can see all the different things you have. Of course, your FM, AM radio, Sirius XM, Bluetooth connectivity, USB, auxiliary input, all that good stuff. This also has Amazon Alexa, and also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This button right here is where you're going to connect your Bluetooth device. Let's come out, let's back out of that. Up here at the top, you got a couple quick options to pull up your comfort settings. So click on that. On the driver's side, here's your temperature settings, as well as your seat and steering wheel settings. You can do the same thing over here on the passenger side. Click on that, and you got all that right there. You also got a couple quick shortcut items, and you can actually add more shortcut items up here if you want to. Click down on that, and here's where you can actually tap and hold and drag shortcut items up to that top bar. And now we go down here and turn our volume knob. You can see it's going to pop up at the top, and if we hit this arrow right here, here's where you're going to set all the different volume settings for each of your different components: navigation, phone calls, media, that kind of thing. I go over here and hit the comfort tab, and here's some redundant AC controls. Like I said, your physical controls right there are not the only way that you control your comfort settings. So you got your temperature on both sides. Right now we're dealing with the front settings. You can tell what zone you want to use, where you want feet, defrost, whatever. More seat and steering wheel controls also right here on this part of the screen. You select the rear, and of course now you can control the rear from the front if you wanted to, or you can just kill it. We're going to turn that on because it's hot as can be here. Other buttons you have along the bottom, of course, your nav button. Here's your phone button. Go into vehicle right here, and it's going to show you a few options right here. You can tell it whether you want your mirror dimmer on or off. You can drop your second row headrest, third row headrest, and click right here for your rear view camera without putting it in reverse. See right here, if I turn my wheel, you do get turning trajectory lines. It's not much, and the camera's not great. It's not beautiful, but it is there and it is incredibly functional. Go over here to our app screen, let that load up if it will, and here's all your different apps. Of course, your FM radio, Bluetooth, all your device manager, Sirius XM. Over here into comfort, more ways to get to comfort controls, nav, phone. Scroll down again, get some vehicle settings right here, system settings, and apparently other. Other is where you're going to get Amazon Alexa and weather, apparently. Now the system in use here is the current Uconnect 5 system, once again on this nice 10.1 inch infotainment screen. All right, climbing in the second row of the Wagoneer now. Looking at the door card, you can see it's pretty much identical to the front. They continued the nice luxury theme back here. Looks exactly the same. Right here, you've got your perforated leather seats again. This is the split bench seat setup. That way you can actually seat up to 8 people in this vehicle. You can option in captain's chairs, which of course will reduce your seating to 7. Now the seats are perforated because you can also option these vehicles with rear heated seats. However, those are not optioned in this particular one. Here on the back of the center console, here's your climate vents. Here's your climate controls for the rear: temperature, fan speed, mode, that kind of thing. You tell it where you want it to blow. One thing missing back here is your optional heated seat controls, of course. Below that, there's a little storage area, maybe for your phone or pens or whatever. Down here, even more connectivity. You get a 115 volt house type outlet right there, another 12 volt round, 2 more USB A and C ports here on the second row. So once again, you're charging all kinds of devices in this vehicle. You see right here on the back of the driver and passenger seat, we have our map pockets on both seats, not just one. Now this center second row seat is pretty neat because you got 3 different things you can do with the seat. Of course, you can actually seat a person in this seat, or you can drop the center of the back down right here and get cup holders and an armrest, or you can pull this loop right here and fold just this center seat down independent from the sides if you need to pass some long items through the center of the vehicle, but you still need your kids to be able to ride in the back with you. Actually sitting in the second row, you can see you've got decent leg room right here. Now these second row seats are slid all the way back. They are slide adjustable, but they are all the way back. If you have a tall person driving, this is what it's going to look like. Maybe you've got a shorter person driving, it might be a little bit easier on you. As far as headroom is concerned, not bad. I can stick my hand, maybe a hand and a half in between my head. It's not bad. It's fairly comfortable. If we put that headrest back up, it's even more comfortable. Probably should have done that to begin with. It's not bad back here. I could probably ride back here. Now that I'm sitting in this position, one thing I do like that Jeep did was, unlike most auto manufacturers that just put vents in the center for the second row, well, Jeep also went and put some right here in the B pillar. So you get 4 vents blowing on your second row passengers. Good call, Jeep. Now climbing to the third row, now you're gonna see there's gonna be a lever right here. Now if you pull this lever, you see all it does is it folds the seat down. That's not what you want. You want this button right here on top of the seat. Push that button, and you see this whole seat tips the entire seat forward for you to make it much easier to just climb right into the third row seat of this vehicle. Okay, it's a little difficult for me, but I'm a big person. All right, but now that we're in, let's pull the seat back to us. And you can see right here is a pretty decent comparison. You can see this left seat is slid a little more forward now than this middle seat. So here's your leg room with the seats all the way back, and here's the leg room if it's scooted forward just a little bit. As far as amenities in the rear, here's your climate vents for your third row seat, your octagonal cup holder, a little bit of storage right there, and a USB-A and Type-C ports here and on the passenger side as well. I'm telling you, they want you to charge every device you've got, plus every device your friends have in this vehicle. And because third seat access is gained with this button, it makes it easier for the third row passenger to get out, because they can also just push this button and the seat just kind of jumps forward like that, and they can climb right out of the Wagoneer. Now let's talk about cargo capacity in your Jeep Wagoneer. Now this is your standard length Wagoneer. You can also buy the L version, which offers an additional 12 inches overall length and an additional 7 inches of wheelbase. But this is your standard version, so we're gonna check out the specs on this one. So we'll push the button right here to open this up. Of course, power lift gate, as you would expect in a nice SUV like this. And that's gonna open up to 27.4 cubic feet of cargo storage space in the back of your standard length Wagoneer. Now, if you opt for the L version, you're gonna get an additional 15 cubic feet, pushing that to 42 cubic feet of storage space. Now, of course, if you want even more space, you can go ahead and drop the third row seats, and that'll get you 70.8 cubic feet of cargo storage space. But if you need even more, let's go ahead and drop the second row seats. And now you're looking at 116.7 cubic feet of cargo storage space with every seat folded down in the back of this vehicle. So if you wanted to treat your luxury Jeep SUV like a truck, you pretty well could actually. All right, now let's climb under the hood of the Jeep Wagoneer and talk about the powertrain options. Now this particular Wagoneer we're testing today features the 5.7 liter V8, producing 392 horsepower, 404 pound-feet of torque. Now this is a naturally aspirated V8 engine, but in this vehicle, as well as some of your Dodge Rams, it's mated to Chrysler's e-torque mild hybrid system, which is Chrysler's 48-volt mild hybrid system. It's not a full hybrid, you can't drive around electric power alone, but it does assist you with boost, regen braking, and fuel economy, of course. Now this engine in 22 was offered in your base Series 1 and the Series 2. As far as anything above this, I'm not exactly certain on that. But according to the Jeep Wagoneer website that I've did some research on as well, I'm only seeing this V8 offered in your base Series 1. Your Series 2 and above seems to only be offered with the other engine option. That other engine option is the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine, the Hurricane. This is a twin turbo inline 6-cylinder engine producing 420 horsepower, 486 pound-feet of torque. So it is a turbo inline 6 that is actually slightly more powerful than this V8 right here. No matter which one of these engines you get, you are going to get it mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. That is your only option. This 5.7 liter V8 once again features the e-torque technology. It also features cylinder deactivation, so you can run on either 8 or 4 cylinders depending on what the vehicle decides its needs are to get the optimal fuel economy. I'm not going to mention anything about cylinder deactivation. There's plenty of people online that have plenty to say about that. I'm just here to review the vehicle. Now, if it looks a little strange under the hood, that's going to be because of this thing right here. This is one major component of the e-torque system, which actually sits in place of a traditional alternator. Now, I can't explain fully to you what this thing does. I do know it's responsible, of course, for generating power for the 48-volt battery inside the vehicle. It is also responsible for keeping the 12-volt system charged and going. It also is actually responsible for starting the engine during auto start stop instead of relying on the starter. It does still have a traditional starter, but that is only used for initial startup. Well, like I said though, I can't explain this system in full detail. I will, however, put a link in the description below to a video that I watched, because I was kind of curious about what this was too, that might provide you with some really good information. It's explained in a lot more detail. I really found that video very informative, and I'm hoping you will too. As far as fuel economy, depending on how your Wagoneer is spec'd, whether it's a short or a long version, 2 or 4-wheel drive, 6 or 8 cylinder, you're looking at fuel economy as low as 15 miles to the gallon city and as high as right around 23 or so highway mileage. So don't buy this thing for fuel economy. Buy this thing because you want a luxurious vehicle. Now, while I was back there talking about the seats, I mentioned, hey, if you want to treat your luxury vehicle like a truck, you can. Another way in which you could possibly treat this thing like a truck is towing ability. So Jeep claims that your Wagoneer, properly equipped with the proper specs, will tow up to 10,000 pounds. Of course, not only can these things tow, but you can also get them offered in a four-wheel drive. This one, again, is not. Your four-wheel drive version is going to come with about 8 inches standard ground clearance. And it also has the availability of an air suspension, which can give you up to 3.6 inches additional ground clearance. So luxurious, capable. So far seems like a pretty good package. And of course, we can't talk about a vehicle with a V8 without at least seeing what it sounds like. This engine may be strapped into a luxury SUV, but it still sounds actually halfway decent. Take a listen. All right, folks, we'll take this thing out for a drive in just a second. But before we do, I'd like to ask you all a little favor. So if you like this video and you want to see what else I've got, you definitely go back to the channel, check out the rest of the videos on my channel. I got a lot of great reviews on there, as well as other videos that you might be into. And if you like what you see on the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, make sure to follow over on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. It's another great way to get notified when new videos go up. Anyway, please make sure to subscribe, and let's go drive this thing. All right, time to drive the Jeep Wagoneer Series 2. Now, unfortunately, this is not a Grand Wagoneer, but it's pretty close. This thing's still a nice vehicle. And that's actually where I'm going to start in this driving portion, is overall generally being in this vehicle and driving it. And the first thing I can definitely tell you is this thing is comfortable. These seats are nice. They're good to sit in. They got that nice ventilation, that cooling, which right now the thermometer is reading 95 degrees and it feels great over here. As far as visibility is concerned, it's pretty much great all the way around. You got a decent view out the rearview mirror, even with 3 rows, especially if those headrests are down, which is something you can drop from the screen if they are up in the way. Pretty decently sized side view mirrors, and of course they got them blind spot mirrors on them, which is good anyways. I like to have that, period, personally, but they're also good if you do plan to tow with this thing, which of course these things are supposedly capable of towing up to 10,000 pounds. I like this steering wheel. It actually feels good in the hands. It's kind of thick, got a nice grip to it. It feels nice to hold and feels nice to steer this vehicle. Normal acceleration, not a problem at all. Of course, it's got that V8 under the hood, so it should have no problem in just basic normal acceleration. That's not talking about really getting on it. As far as the screens, they're nice and vibrant. They're pretty good. This Uconnect 5 system over here, it's a nice looking system. It may not be the best of the best in the world, but it's fairly decent, and it's not the hardest thing in the world to use. I definitely like that it's got the 2 panes right here, where you got your nav over here and your stereo over here. That's also really nice. And this gauge cluster screen in front of me, it's nice to look at. Once again, there are nicer gauge screens out there than this, but for a vehicle from Stellantis, this is not a bad gauge screen, especially in something that is from Jeep, although they definitely don't want you to see the word Jeep anywhere on it, even though it's in a few places very small. All right, now that we're starting to get away from the red light section out here on the highway, let's see here what this thing feels like just to cruise. So let's get up to speed here, which once again, it does very well. You don't even have to give it all the power. Now this one does have the standard suspension on it. It does not have the adjustable air ride suspension. I imagine your air ride will probably soak up bumps a little bit better than this does. Not to say that this is a harsh ride, it's still a comfortable ride, although you still can feel some of the small undulations in the road, that kind of thing, but there's nothing harsh about it. It's basic comfort, really. It's a decent vehicle to drive. You could definitely still cruise across town in this thing. Oh, there's a beauty for you. Check out that Pontiac. All right. I love a beautiful distraction. Anyways, like I was saying, it's not high-end comfort. It's basic, what you would expect from a normal car, mid to full-size SUV, family mover. I still think you could drive this thing across country and it would be comfortable enough to really not bother you. Plus, you've got the heated and cooled seats, so if you do get too cold in the winter or too hot in the summer, you've got that for additional comfort. Heated steering wheel, of course, because cold steering wheels suck in the winter. So you got that as well. And I will say, this is a nice place to be. I've said a few times, I've used the word luxury in this review a few times. Now this, of course, is not the full-on, full luxury Grand Wagoneer. That's a much higher end, much more expensive version of this vehicle. So the Grand Wagoneer is going to be quite a bit nicer than this. That's not to say that this isn't nice. You got a bunch of piano black trim in here, a bunch of leather with contrasted stitching. Got a bunch of nice aluminum look, even if it's not a real aluminum looking stuff. Silver trim all over the place. This nice dark wood trim, even if it is simulated. It looks really nice in here. If you're not wanting to spend Grand Wagoneer money, but you still want a nice SUV, you're definitely going to get that in this vehicle. As far as general acceleration, I will say this thing is pretty peppy. Of course, it better be. It's got that V8. It'll get to speed nicely, and I'm not even getting up high. That was almost a 4,000 RPM shift. So this thing does accelerate very nicely if you're just trying to get on a highway or pass somebody or whatever. Once again, it should. It's got that V8. It's got that e-torque system that helps to supply a little bit more power to it. And of course, it also can help with a little bit of fuel economy, although you're still got a 5.7 V8 in this thing, and it's not exactly a light vehicle either. So you're still not getting amazing fuel economy, but you're getting some decent power. Now, the turbocharged inline 6, the Hurricane, is a bit more powerful than this, so I imagine the acceleration is better, but this is still nothing to complain about. All right, we're at a dead stop here. Now, my research has shown me that we're at about 6.7 seconds is 0 to 60 time in this thing. As I said in a few videos before, I don't yet have good testing equipment for that, and every phone app I found I feel like it's garbage. So if you guys out there can think of any good phone apps that are free that I can just download from the Google Play Store for this testing that are accurate, let me know. I'd love to know which ones are good. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and try 0 to 60 on this thing. I'm not seeing any kind of launch control, so let's give it a little bit of boost here with the brakes. And go. Another thing this car is really good at is stopping. Oh yeah, this thing will stop well. These brakes are actually very touchy. I started noticing that the second I take it off the lot. It's got some touchy brakes on it. This thing will stop very, very well. And one thing I'm unfortunately not seeing in this vehicle is a heads-up display. I'm not sure if you can get one in these cars. I'd definitely like to see one in a car like this, especially since these things can get pretty pricey. But I'm not seeing that on this particular Series 2. All right, so about how much is the Wagoneer going to cost you if you decide to buy one? Since this video is being recorded in 2023, despite the fact this car is a 22, we're going to be talking 2023 numbers. So looking at the Wagoneer website, you got 4 different trim levels of the Wagoneer. And I'm going to give you starting prices before options. The first is your base model 4x2 Wagoneer, pretty much a Series 1. That's going to start you out right around $61,000, about $61,600 or so. Your next level up is the Series 2, which will start you right around $67,000, $67,300. After that, you get the Carbide Edition, which sits right in between Series 2 and Series 3, and that's going to start you right around $70,400 or so. Then your top tier level, before you jump to Grand Wagoneer, your Series 3 Wagoneer, is going to start you out just a little bit less than $73,000. And once again, these are 2023 numbers. And of course, you start adding options and whatnot, obviously you're going to bring that price up. Just to give you an idea, I do have the original window sticker for this 2022 model Series 2. The way this one is equipped, it had an MSRP on the sticker of about $71,400. So definitely not cheap. Not Grand Wagoneer money, but you're still going to have to pay up for one of these if you want one. But you are getting quite a lot in one of these. All right, folks, so that's going to pretty much do it for the review on this Jeep Wagoneer Series 2. So to sum up, this vehicle is a really nice vehicle. It's really nice inside. It's pretty luxurious. It's obviously not Grand Wagoneer luxurious, but it's still definitely a very nice place to be. It's very comfortable. You got those heated cool seats, which really help out with the level of comfort in this vehicle. And of course, there's a lot of adjustability in the seats and the wheel and all that. And the pedals, of course, to make sure this thing is set up just exactly how you like it. It's got a good sound system. The Alpine system is good. It has a subwoofer, and it does sound good. I did play with it a little bit, but if you can spring for the 19-speaker Macintosh, I would definitely get that. But still, not a bad system. It's got plenty of power from that 5.7 V8 with the e-torque system. Although if you want a little bit more horsepower, you should definitely go up to the turbocharged inline 6 Hurricane engine. Although in my opinion, if you want a tried and true pushrod V8 powertrain, this is definitely the way to go. It's definitely not the cheapest thing in the world, but I think you're definitely getting what you pay for, especially with the prices that cars are going for nowadays. So anyways, y'all, that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. And if you're looking at one of these and wondering if you'd like to possibly pull the trigger on one, I hope this helped you to get closer to a decision whether or not you want to. Once again, huge special thanks to Twin Cities Certified of Maryville, Tennessee for making this review possible today and lending me this vehicle. These are amazing people. And once you get done watching this video, please make sure to go check them out at the link in the description below. And once you've done that, make sure you go back and watch the rest of the videos on the channel. Make sure you subscribe if you like what you see and you want to see more. Follow over on Facebook, Instagram at That Car Vlog channel. Thanks again so much for watching, y'all, and I hope you have an awesome day.